Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Jason. Today's video, we're going to do the first episode of a review of a vegan debate between Garland Farms channel and Jeffrey Phillips channel. Garland being a regenerative farmer in Texas that does grass-fed ruminant grazing. So he will be on the side of the omnivorous diet, and Jeffrey Phillips will be on the side of veganism. Now, when you're looking at a vegan debate, there's so many multiple facets that can be discussed, anywhere from ethical / moral, spiritual, health, environmental. So there's a lot of discussion to be made. So we wanted to narrow the debate to finer points for the length of time. So the first debate that we will look at, this was done on the Crucible channel between, again, Jeffrey and Garland Farms. So the debate will center around the harmful effects of plant agriculture versus livestock or animal agriculture versus plant agro, and which one is more destructive, concentrating and focusing more on environmental issues. I was concerned when speaking with Garland Farms, saying, well, like, this is going to be a tough one to debate, because you're literally going to have to debate grain-fed industry, animal agro, which you're not even a part of, which you don't even support. You support grass-fed grazing methods. So I said you're a serious underdog in respect to that. So we're going to see how that interview went. We're going to look first at Jeffrey's channel. This is my second attempt at doing episode 1 of this debate review. Upsettingly, I did not share audio, and while I was listening to the debate and commenting, the viewers could not hear a darn thing. Try and limit these response or review videos to about 30 minutes so that it's not too long and extended, and hopefully do a couple of episodes in going through the debate. So if you go to Jeffrey Phillips, so this is the gentleman, his YouTube channel that is going to be debating the vegan side of the argument. He does a lot of videos specifically criticizing carnivore camaraderie. A young 20-year-old kid, been doing a couple of months the carnivore diet, really has no in-depth knowledge. Haven't wasted my time even watching him. Don't know what kind of attitude also he has, but he's been criticized even on the keto carnivore side of the debate. So Jeffrey seems to have a lot of videos enjoying dismantling this young gentleman, and I think that it's because he's easy pickings over here. Again, this debate, so in a way he's easy pickings, and I don't think the same will apply, as you will see soon, with Garland Farms. So this is debating and defending the necessity of an omnivorous diet with animal nutrition. So he's already made a few excerpts over here. This was the last live stream in Garland Farms had together on his channel. So let's check it out. Garland Farms, a lot of his videos are, well, not a lot, the majority, all of it, 97% are all debunking various aspects of veganism, going after some very prominent vegan activists. anywhere from Joey Carbstrong to Earthling Ed, and debating logic. So he goes after the mainstream activist, debunking in brief periods, talking about the detrimental effects of monocropping to support the vegan diet. So that's Garland Farms. We will next just go to the Crucible. The Crucible, among other things, seems to be a channel that moderates various debates. So here's the Crucible. Here is that 2 hours, 22-minute debate. So you can go to the Crucible, subscribe to that channel. This was under the live stream. So this was yesterday. It's already 2,000 views. So if you want to have the full spectrum of all of this debate, there are pre-debate shows, two total of 6 hours, 50 minutes, roughly. So almost 7 hours. The first one was me meeting Jeffrey, having a discussion, not a debate, on the vegan diet. And then after, we also have over here a more extended version that was roughly 5 more hours discussing great content, a lot of information. We even also had a great vegan debate series, anticipating before having met Ali and Jeffrey, kind of talking. I don't think this is a whole 5 hours. There's just a lot of discussion anticipating the debate, but there's various topics that were spoken to over there. So that's pretty much it. You can start with these ones with a lot of pre-shows, and then after get into the actual debate, and then get into as well the reviews that we're going to make. JD and I will also do further reviews together where we'll get additional input into the critique and review of this. What was I going to say? One thing that I did notice that was kind of a sign, I did get the impression, I did get the impression after speaking on my channel with Garland Farms. Very pleasant people. Notice that they showed good character. It was the most pleasant conversation on my channel that I've ever had with veganism, yeah. So compliments to them. Hope that the criticisms are not too harsh towards them as people. I'm going to try and debate more the ideologies, what's claimed, but there's a few things directly at Jeffrey and Ali that I found a little bit weird. That's more directed directly at them, but I'll try and be as respectful as possible. As I said, when it came to Jeffrey's channel, the fact that he did so many response videos in relation to carnivore camaraderie and debating, but 10 days ago, a little more, maybe over 10 days ago, when we did have the live stream chats with them, I kind of expected possibly response videos to our discussion, since he was doing that with carnivore camaraderie, maybe some response videos, and I did not see that. So I said to JD, I said, well, that's probably a good sign that perhaps they might have been caught off guard, because Jeffrey Phillips did not know to any fair extent Garland Farms. So I don't think he was. I think he was a little bit like set back. Like we're not in the same level here as debating a 18, 20-year-old kid that's been on carnivore a few months and is trying to make carnivore content, but is lacking serious knowledge. So let's get into the video. Let's hope that the audio this time is going to function. We're gonna put the volume. We're gonna put the speed a little bit quicker to get through. And again, it's going to take multiple episodes to get through all of this. We're going to hide. And we will go to the Crucible channel and get started. Oh, dear Lord. I hope that the audio is okay. With the live, you know right away when there's something wrong, but when you're pre-recording it, it's you're not the same. So I jumped over about 7 minutes, the introductions, and let's get straight to the debate.
But it looked great. It looked cool, so I was down to do it.
Let's put that on 1.25, perhaps.
All right. Well, do you mind opening first?
Sure. Yeah, I can open first.
We'll let you open first, and then that'll allow
you.
This is
Allie too. She's on YouTube also at Allie Phillips. Allie.
Okay. Yeah, YouTube or at ALIFOOSH.
Okay, but we're all bigoted, and women are only props on the Crucible. I need you to understand that's very important. I'm joking. I already see you're offended.
I'm taking a break from the kitchen for this day. No.
Yes.
Yeah. Break in the kitchen. So again, good character, showing a sense of humor. Good for them.
Yes. No. And obviously you have the husband's permission, right? So it's all good. Right? Anyway, you got the first 7-minute opening. Go ahead.
All right. The structure of the food production industry today is a result of many factors. The plant agriculture and animal agriculture industries have become intertwined as a result of increased efficiency for greater profits. And as a result, the government's subsidies dictating production. Today, we're going to explore that while the mass food production industry as a whole currently causes environmental harm to varying degrees, the animal product industry is the leader in harm done to the environment. The degree of this harm can be measured by examining the levels of air, water, and land pollution emitted by the production of meat and dairy compared to plant foods.
Garland Farms has this slight smile, some slanted eyes, meaning ready to compete. And it seems like Garland Farms is kind of like at the race line, ready to bolt, saying like, hold me back. Is it ready? Am I ready? Let's explode now. Let's fact explode.
Globally, animal foods are the leading polluters of ecosystems via runoff of excess nutrients into the surrounding environment.
So the whole runoff, first of all, why is the soil so hydrophobic? Why can't it hold in the water? And why is there so much runoff? That's actually from over-tilling, and that's because they're not using manure to fertilize. Their monocropping just keeps on. The tilling process just destroys the topsoil. You're putting in these monocrops that suck out the nutrients to grow. They're not perennials. These are not grasslands, and therefore all of the runoff from the fields will go. The issue with possible contamination, like they said, directly because of the animals. Well, that's the first issue, is that we're supposed to be putting the manure as natural fertilizer into the soil, but the way the bureaucracy is, they're not using the manure. Therefore, farmers have to store the manure and urine in silos, concentrating ammonia. And it's really the storage from a broken system. It's like we're not supposed to be collecting feces there and having animals living inside buildings. We're supposed to have them on the fields. That poop is supposed to be getting impacted inside as the herd of ruminants go through. And they're supposed to be grazing. There's supposed to be regeneration of the soil. There's supposed to be, if we do it in this method, a flourishing of the grasslands, which all of this together helps to prevent hydrophobic qualities to appear within the soil. That it's, I think it's hydrophilic, where it holds water adequately.
And waterways Measured in grams of phosphate equivalents per calorie and per kilogram, animal foods exceed the majority of plant foods. And
just want to make sure for a second that I'm actually sharing. Yeah. Okay. Sorry for stopping that, guys. Stop share for a second. Present. Share at audio this time. Idiot, Jason. Let's continue.
Far exceed all staple plant foods in their eutrophying emissions. In the United States, farm animals are the greatest contributor of gaseous ammonia emissions. 80% of the 15,900 annual human deaths directly resulting from food-related air pollution are attributed to animal-based foods. Looking at soy, only 20% of its global use is directly for human food. Over 30% is fed to chickens and other.
By the way, the ruminant animals that were, creatures that were created on this earth, the cycle between wild animals and the soil and the plants. This is a natural ecological cycle. So CO2, methane, ammonia from the degradation of these organic matters. These are all normal gases that have always existed. What we have to ask is, because we're not doing regenerative farming, because they're eating grains instead of the grassland, because they're indoors in many areas, because the manure is not being used and it's being stored. What is the additional? Would the methane, would the ammonia emissions be similar in both paradigms? These gases, they are, not the devil. These are normal emissions. Is there other man-made creations of ammonia? Because then that's additional ammonia off the natural ammonia that was entering the air naturally through the ecological cycle. Just like methane or CO2, it's like that was a natural gas that enters the atmosphere. It's not detrimental. It's the man-made addition of carbon to the air, not the creatures that have always kind of existed. Large amounts of ruminant animals roamed the earth, early on, and for a long time on Earth. It was not setting our world on fire.
Their poultry, 20% to pigs, 6% for aquaculture, and 2% for beef and dairy production. Looking at corn production in the U.S., the majority is fed to animals. For corn-fed animals, the efficiency of converting grain to meat and dairy calories ranges from 3 to 40%, though at best that's a 60% loss in calories to the animal's excretions, basically. All while animal products make up 27% of total calories consumed.
Meanwhile, Garland Farms JD is just staring in anticipation. When's it my turn? I'm going.
Consumed by Americans. Looking at crop deaths from plant agriculture, it's estimated that there are 7.3 billion animal deaths per year, which include mouse deaths.
Side note, and a criticism that was overwhelmingly pointed out is that Jeffrey Phillips initially challenged, I believe, Freedom Grower, just a guy who is not a debater, or I'm sure has done extensive study into nutrition, happens to be a meat eater. I think maybe Jeffrey, trolls him and teases his friend on their community's platforms. So supposedly that was the first challenge. And then somebody else, Patrick, contacted JD, and Patrick said, I have somebody I think that we can debate. So the challenge did come from, maybe not initially directly to Jeffrey, but it seems like it's from the vegan side of the camp. And so we have JD versus Jeff Phillips. But what we all notice is Jeffrey has hardly said a thing. And all of a sudden, Ali, who nobody even knew was going to be part of the debate, is taking charge. And it seems like the debate is primarily between Garland Farms and Ali. Jeffrey just sits there, which is kind of really weird and awkward. and hardly engages in the debate. Really a bad look for him, in my opinion. I don't know why this happened. Jeffrey was very vocal and engaged in the communications that we had for 5 hours with him on my live stream. I do not know. I honestly, want to ask him, like, dude, what happened? Did something happen that day? Like, you just sat there, and I was completely fine with Jeffrey and Ali. I didn't even think like, oh, it's unfair. It's 2 against 1, and it was just like, oh, okay, Ali, she's starting out. Maybe Jeffrey's going to talk, but she's just going to read the studies. It's nice. There are a couple there. Yeah, it's fun. I wish my wife would be on live streams with me. So that was kind of like not. And I was like, okay. It was actually brought up by the Crucible that kind of like, pointed that out and chastised them a little bit, which is probably a little bit even more embarrassing. And then JD kind of reaffirmed, like, no, that was never said. But it didn't have any effect on how the debate went down. And you'll understand soon.
Birds killed by pesticides, fish killed by fertilizer runoff, and lizards and amphibians killed by eating pesticide-contaminated insects. This compared to the 9.5 billion land animals directly killed for food in the U.S. each year. When you add marine animals, that number becomes 55 billion animals directly killed for human consumption versus the 7.3 billion animal number for the casualties from plant agriculture. And with that, I yield.
Okay. Appreciate the opening statement. Felt like a teacher where you're like, okay, now who wants to read the next paragraph? Right? All right. Mr. Farms, you're up. You have 7 minutes on the clock.
So notice the first thing is that the vegan side really sat down, read the study, which Garland Farms will also kind of refute in another way, that those statistics that you're getting, look at the site and who funds them. And it was Bill Gates and the Melinda Foundation, which also Garland Farms points out that Bill Gates is putting a tremendous amount of money in lab-grown meat, alternative proteins, plant-based proteins, and so there is a vested interest in him funding data sites that are biased towards him and his agenda. Perfectly makes sense.
Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, it's ironic to be debating vegans on whether animal agriculture or crop agriculture is more harmful. The whole premise of being a vegan is to do the least amount of harm possible. And you can see that vegans do not really like to focus on the animal deaths that are associated with the crop agriculture that brings the vegan menu to the market. When you talk about crop agriculture, you're talking about oranges, apples, pears, cucumbers, avocados, celery, spinach, green.
That was cute, the way Jeff, that was cute, the way you rubbed your tummy. That's funny.
Beans, peas, the list just goes on and on and on. Livestock do not eat any of those. However, the 2 crops that are associated with animal feed are corn and soybean. When you look at soybean, for instance, it is certainly, they listed a lot of the destruction and harm that soybean crops are responsible for, including the destructive tillage, the pesticides, the synthetic nitrogen, the mined phosphorus, the mined potassium. These are all very destructive practices, as well as all of the runoff, the fertilizer runoff, the pesticide runoff. All of the animals, animals are actually being driven into extinction by crop agriculture, primarily the corn and soybean industries. You did hear how like only 20% of the soybean crop is going to humans.
So this here is where Garland Farms deconstructs. Basically, Ali is presenting the fact that all of the soybean, a significant amount of the soy bean is being used to feed the animals. And JD is going to completely deconstruct, and it's quite impressive. What JD is basically going to try and say is that actually within, let's say, the soy crop, 90% of the soy is actually used to make soybean oil. And that is through a solvent-based extraction method, an industrial process that also uses the solvent hexane to dissolve the oil, the grease and oils within the soy, to collect that, to process that, to feed back as seed oils. That is basically 10% of the actual calories that we consume. That is a highly oxidized polyunsaturated seed oil that has oxidation within it and oxygen radicals that are destructive to the body, and a very high omega-6 count that throws our omega-6 to 3 ratio out of balance, because those are essential fatty acids, but they must be in balance. And once we are overdosing on omega-6, which is a 20-to-1 ratio on average in the West, what happens is the omega-6 becomes component of a lot of the body's structure, and that is inflammatory and easily oxidized within the body. So let's continue. I'll shut up.
It's actually more than 20%. It's about 27%.
Oh yeah, sorry. So after the solvent has done its job, the leftover material from the soybean is what is being fed, as well as the husk, as well as the plant. All of the useless waste of the solvent process, and he goes further into distillers grains, all sorts of stuff. What he's saying is that 90% of the soy bean is used for human consumption through the form of oil. The leftover crap from that, as well as the plant itself, is being fed to the animals. And because they're saying soy, a large percent of soy, they're able to say soy, but they're not. That incorporates soybean, leftover products from seed oils, as well as the plant itself, the fibrous material and stuff like that. So that they're able to say that, but the actual bean is not being eaten. The actual soybean inside and everything is not being eaten by the animals to any large degree. So he uses the analogy coming soon, JD, of a pistachio, I believe. And you say, if you have a pistachio and you separate the shell from the pistachio meat, whatever they were calling it, the pistachio meat, the nut meat. So you have the shell, you have the nut meat. Okay, the nut meat is being used by humans, but 60% of the shell, as well as the pistachio meat in there, a large percentage, let's say 60%, is the shell. 60% is being used by the animal of that pistachio. So we could say 60% of the pistachio is being used just to feed the animals. But in reality, that's because 60% is the shell and 40% is actually the meat. So you can statistically say that more than half is being wasted on the animal. But that half is the shell that we can't do anything about. So JD's calling out the statistical manipulation of these percentages. They do not understand that. He has to repeat, I think, up to 5 times. And he goes further and asks the question, now that they conceded that 90% of the soybean is used for the oil. So they concede to that. So then he makes another point by asking a question, and he says, okay, so if you concede to that, what would happen if we removed all ruminant animals? How would that affect this soy production? And they didn't understand and comprehend that what he was trying to say is if 90% is going for oil and that's consumed by humans, if we remove the ruminant animal, there's no significant decrease in the soy production, and therefore no significant decrease in the destructive nature of the soy crop industry. And that's really easy. Everyone was comprehending that, but they just were not comprehending it. A lot of people were kind of like trolling them, like, well, that's your B12 deficiency with the lack of cholesterol and EPA and DHA, and you have vegan brain fog. So a little bit of trolling.
Because about 7% of the soybeans are grown specifically for human consumption. It goes directly to the humans as whole soybeans. But anyone that invests in commodities futures has heard of the soybean crush spread. And this is a investment strategy that investors use to hedge their bets on soybean investments. And it's based on the fact that every year.
Like, look at Jeffrey, you know, it's like something must have happened that day. He's completely unengaged. Ali was looking down at something. Maybe she was just trying to find statistics, but I don't think that they were, maybe some part of their lack of comprehension to what our JD is trying to articulate is that maybe they really weren't listening that much. I'm trying to concentrate more on Jeffrey and Ali's body language and reactions, because during the debate, since Garland was speaking so more, I was focusing kind of on him. Now we have the benefit that I'm going to kind of look at their reactions.
Here, about 90% of the world's soybeans are processed. They're crushed to squeeze out the oil. Soybeans are an oil seed. In fact, they provide 61% of the world's seed oils. And so 90% of the world's soybeans are actually processed to extract the oil. And humans consume 100% of that oil, either as cooking oil, as an ingredient in ultra-processed junk food, or as biofuel.
By the way, when he's saying ultra-processed junk food, all of that soybean is, junk food gives you the impression like, candy and cakes and stuff like that. No, all the middle of your shopping center, the grocery store, all of the wraps, all of taco shells, sauces, condiments, packaged foods, anything. Just look on the side. You will always see that the majority of those products are all corn, wheat, and soybean oil, canola oil, any of these seed oils. There's no animal products in any of these things besides maybe gelatin.
Biodiesel. So when they say 20% of the soybeans are going to human consumption, this is how intellectually dishonest that statement actually is. It's kind of like this. When you peel a pecan and you remove the meat of the pecan and put it on one side and you put the shell on the other and you weigh the two, the shell is going to weigh about 60% of the total pecan, and the pecan nut meat is going to weigh about 40% of the total pecan. Now, if you feed that nut meat to people and you grind up the shell of the pecan and feed it to animals, then you turn around and claim that only 40% of the pecans are going to feed humans. Do you see how that's not actually honest? You're not actually feeding 40% of the pecans to the humans because you processed the pecan. You removed the shell, the part that's inedible to humans, and you've set aside the part that is an asset for human consumption. And so if you're processing 100% of the pecans to remove the shell and you're only eating the meat, then you can't blame the animals that you're feeding the shell to for your pecan crop. Now, a similar situation is happening with corn. Although with corn, a greater percentage of the corn is actually grown for the livestock. About 36% every year of the world's corn is grown to feed livestock, 36%. The other 74% is going to the production of corn on the cob, corn in the can, the production of high fructose corn syrup, the production of ethanol.
Yeah, there's also corn oil. There's high fructose corn syrup. again, start looking on sides of all of the packaged food. The proper way of eating is to do the whole outside of your grocery store. So you can go to the dairy, meaning milk, creams, cheeses. You go to the egg section, right? Then after you have the fruits and vegetables, okay? If that's your only sugar source, fruits and vegetables, no problem there. And then after you go into various meat sections, fish, beef, pork, chicken, and the likes of that. You do the whole outside. If you keep on rotating around the outside of your grocery store, that is the healthy way of eating. Mind you, though, we can do one step further and say most of the grocery stores are using a grain-fed animal, which supports this industry that is not optimal at all. So there's a difficulty there. Obviously, when I'm talking to people trying to get them to eat the appropriate food, first step, just get them away from the middle of the shopping center, have them buy these kinds of meats. But as they adopt this healthy eating, they should be fine tuning it further to start looking, shopping around for grass-fed, ruminant animal and local farms to support it. That is, a commitment, but we really have to start finding food sources from local farmers and not supporting the grain-fed industry because it's supporting the monocropping.
The production.
And that the excuse of saying, well, grass-fed is so much more expensive than grain-fed. Well, you know what? Believe me, if we don't support the local farmers or the grass-fed regenerative ruminant farming industry, we will be stuck with the grain. And on top of the grain-fed industry, even those prices are going to be becoming more and more expensive. Future carbon tax is going to be slapped on top of it, so that economically, even if you don't believe the ideology behind the demonization of animal food, economically you'll be limited. They'll reduce it economically. It'll just be too expensive for a lot of people.
Of alcoholic beverages, and these processes that produce ethanol, high fructose corn syrup, alcoholic beverages, they create industrial waste. And it's called spent grains, also known as distiller's grains. This is the leftover fibrous waste after some product has been created solely for human consumption, because humans consume alcoholic beverages, they consume biodiesel and ethanol, they consume high fructose corn syrup, and they consume soybean oil. And so 86%, according to
friend JD, spitting out the facts. So far, this doesn't seem like a debate. It seems more like, and this will become more and more evident as we get to the end of it, seems like more a information session about farming facts from a regenerative farmer, or I could tease a little bit and say this was not a debate between defending animal versus plant agriculture. This seemed almost, especially towards the end, it seemed like a vegan rehabilitation session.
To the UN's FAO, 86% of all livestock feed is actually inedible industrial waste left over from processing, that is processing the corn and the soybean, creating some product that's destined solely for human consumption, and then the leftover garbage, rather than being piled up and burned.
So again, just the weird awkwardness of Jeffrey just sitting there, maybe debating 20-year-old clueless kids just starting a diet, and debating somebody who knows their stuff. JD's been doing this for a long time with videos debunking veganism. JD came prepared, and I'm wondering if Jeffrey was prepared. Again, the initial communications that we had on my live streams with JD, between JD, Ali, and Jeffrey, just conversation. was led by us explaining them a lot of things, them being very gracious and listening, seeming to be open-minded. And again, I knew that Jeffrey might have been caught off guard by JD's knowledge level and ability to articulate and defend his position, because zero, I don't remember if I mentioned this in the first video that I had to trash because of the audio, or this one, but they didn't, Jeffrey did not make response videos to the conversations that me and JD had with him, but he did many on carnivore camaraderie, the young clueless kid. So I kind of mentioned to JD after the first live streams, maybe 10 days ago or something, that they didn't make responsibility videos trying to make fun of us. That is a good sign that maybe they were caught off guard and going, whoa, like there's nothing that made our side of the debate look stupid, meaning they couldn't use any material like I'm doing currently to kind of post for their community, meaning it wasn't a good look for them.
Is being fed to animals. Myself, I'm a regenerative rotational grazing grazier, so I don't actually feed my animals these feeds. I have a pasture that I keep stockpiled for the winter, and I piece that out to my animals during the winter, and I can get them all the way through the winter grazing that stockpiled grass. I don't require any of that feed. However, like I just explained clearly, most of the feed, 86% of the feed, has not actually been grown specifically for livestock.
Jeffrey looks a little bit like unease, twitchy, maybe.
It's actually been grown to be processed so that products can be extracted from it and consumed specifically and solely by human beings.
All right, let's just want to verify to limit the duration of these videos. Crap, this is way too long. So we're going to stop it here, guys. And we got to 18 minutes. We'll continue from there. God bless you. Thanks for visiting my channel. And there will be further reviews based on that first episode of a series of hopefully a series of debates between Garland and Jeffrey and Ali. So look forward to that. And like I said, JD and I will also together go through the same debate to pull out additional commentary and ideas for discussion. All right. Thanks a lot. God bless. See you soon.